Text, XR Stories works with Studio McGuire on Grains of Recollection, audio described version. This film starts with an interview with Kristen McGuire, director of Studio McGuire. She's sitting in her office next to a table with a really fine, delicate white paper 3D structure of a house surrounded by trees and fences, around 70 centimetres high. Kristen is a white woman with long auburn hair with a fringe, and she's wearing a fawn jumper with a large cowl neck. We also hear from Davey McGuire, also director of Studio McGuire. Davey is a mixed-race person with black hair swept over to one side. We are shown images of paper models with lights shining through them, particularly the very delicate trees. Then we move into the virtual world of the paper landscape. The trees don't have round trunks but crossed paper, and inside the house the furniture is made up of flat pieces of paper, and everything's white. Sometimes leaves gently float down from the trees, or birds fly past, and bright light shines through the trees from a real window we can see at the edges of the VR world, like a sun. Other video clips show the team looking at computers, looking around wearing VR headsets, delicately cutting out a tiny white picket fence using special tools, and Kristen and Davey walking down a cobbled street with a white dog.
I think it's thrown a lot of things up in the air about traditional storytelling. It's relearning how to tell a story.
We make a lot of quite intricate paper models, and we use projection to tell stories. A lot of people have said to us that they'd like to be in our models. So the idea of the project was, how do we recreate our paper worlds in virtual reality?
The original idea for this project was to create a story in which the female model maker is losing her memory. These models represent experiences that she had in her life, and what the player experiences in VR is kind of her soliloquy of walking through these models and trying to pace her life back together. This is our first VR project. I think the challenge was to create a paper world in VR that doesn't look CGI or digital, that contains some of the imperfections of real paper.
With virtual reality, there's a completely different way of telling a story. The audience are kind of the cameraman. If you want someone to look behind you, you have to make a sound for them to look behind. You have to guide them in a completely different way. Through this funding, we've been able to put in quite a lot of time to actually take a deep dive into how to do this.
We wouldn't have been able to do this without XR Stories. And that amount of funding to invest in the time to experiment is really crucial to make new work, to innovate, to experiment.
At the start of this project, the outcome was kind of unknown. And it's been amazing to see that actually the outcome has exceeded what we thought it would be. It's been the end of a journey and the beginning of a new one.
A pale green screen with XR Stories written in black.